Good morning, everybody. I'm Logan, and today I'm going to be taking you along with me here in the greenhouses. I don't know if you can hear it in the background or not, but there's a strangely loud helicopter or plane outside. I'm going to see if I can see it. Yep, here it comes. Okay, so now that he's went by, I can now explain to you guys what the first thing we do is here when we get down to the greenhouse is we go right into our seed room. Well, we check the temperature in here in the big greenhouse, but we don't really have any plants out here right now, so it's not real important, the temperature out here. We want it to stay somewhat warm, but it doesn't have to be crazy warm just because it'd be useless. But here in the seed room is what's really important, because we do have quite a bit of plants in here now, and it would be a big deal if it got too hot. Right now, the temperature is reading about, I don't know if you can see that, 82. And that's not real bad, but that's starting to get a little warm. So what I'll do, come over here to our thermostat. This is for our fan. So if it would get over 70 degrees, that fan will kick on like it is right there. I don't know if you can hear that. So now that's gonna suck air through here. And obviously we have to keep this door shut. But what we'll do is we'll open these louvers so that it has somewhere to suck air from. Because if you don't do that, it'll actually just be sucking the plastic in, and then that's not good. So there's that, and then here's our temperature. We don't really want to have our fan and our temperature. It's hard to see because the sun gets that all foggy, but we don't want to have the temperature and the fan at the same temperature because then they'll both be kicking on and off a ton. So I'll turn this back to like 60 because we don't really need that on anymore today, unless for some reason it would get really cold and the sun would go away, and that's not really an issue. So then over here, I'm really excited to see we are getting our first sign of life in our geraniums. Not everyone is up yet, but they're coming really nice. Get a little closer here so you can see it. Just barely popping their heads up. And these are the only two flats out of like the 12 or 18 that are here. So it's really exciting. Before you know it, these will all be green, but some just take a little longer. I did see one, oh yeah, right here. Just one in this flat is starting to come up. So hopefully within the next day, maybe even later on today, they'll start popping their heads out. So, like I said, really exciting. Now we have to seed a lot more today because this is only the beginning. All right, so I just got down here now again for the second time after I got everything opened up. And I'm gonna start seeding. Now we did find out over the years that we don't have to plant, you can see like 115, 122, we don't have to plant them that early. So today's second list is Vinca, Adratum, Dahlia, Celosia, Thyme. And so I've already got the tags written out for most of them. And so now I'm gonna start seeding. The only thing I'm not exactly sure on, which I have to call my mom, is how much to plant of each. Sometimes it's a whole flat, sometimes it's only 3/4 of a flat, sometimes we're only going to use this. Like if we have two varieties of, let's just say, Celosia, we won't usually use two halves. We'll just go half, skip 2 rows, and then another half. I don't exactly know why, but it's not really that confusing as long as you leave the 2 gaps. Nobody really makes any mistakes then. But so that's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to be here for a while because it just takes a while to seed and make sure you do everything right. One thing I did find though is that we do have seeds that are pelleted and seeds that are not pelleted. So like these ones here, if you can see them in there, they're pelleted. And when I put them on the seeder, they just roll around 10 times nicer, and I can fill up every single hole without really having much of an issue. But when they're not pelleted, they want to stick together. I'll get multiple seeds on one hole, then I have to take the tweezers, as you've seen in my previous video, picking them off, putting them on the next one, and it's just a big hassle. So if we ever can get the pelleted, that's what we go for. And I wanted to tell you guys, if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. I love to hear them, and I answer as many as I can, if I can answer them. I mean, anything from why we use those size seed trays, to what kind of dirt do we use, anything. I love to answer the questions. I love to hear from you guys, so leave a comment.
So I'll start off by getting my 512 cell seed tray, and before I fill that with dirt, I gotta grab a tag of whatever variety seed I'm putting in there and get that stapled on, because if I put the dirt in first and then staple it, a lot of times that dirt will pop back out and it'll screw everything up. So then after everything is leveled out nicely, I'll bring it over here to the table and I'll make my indents in the seed tray so that the seed has somewhere to sit and I can cover it with the vermiculite if it requires any. Then I'll set it in my holder for my seeder. That way I know exactly where my seeder needs to sit. Then I'll get my seeds of whatever variety I'm planting. Get it opened up. If it's a new pack, sometimes we have seeds from last year. That's still good. Turn on the vacuum. And then I'll start sprinkling my seeds onto the seeder. I'll try and kind of estimate how many needs to go on. And then I'll pick up the seeder and I'll shake them around until I get the whole thing filled pretty evenly. And then I'll take my tweezers, and if some falls off some of the holes, or if some of the seeds are doubled up, I'll rearrange them so that everything only has one seed, and the whole seed tray is filled out perfectly. Then after my seeds are dropped into each cell, I'll bring them into the seed room, where I'll put the vermiculite on. Some seeds require more or less vermiculite, depending on how much light they need. This particular variety does not need a lot of vermiculite, so you can tell I'm putting it on pretty light. And then for my last step, it'll get placed on the heat mat.
Alright, so here we are now the next day. As you probably know, I did not finish everything on my list yesterday. I had quite a long list. I'll show you that in a minute. But first, I want to show you guys how the geraniums and gaillardia are looking in here. So as you've seen yesterday, I got pretty much this whole side done, beside those couple flats there in the middle, right down here. But then over here, I showed you guys the geraniums yesterday and they were just coming up, but now look at them. They're almost coming up 100%, beautiful. This fly here is doing about the same, except for this section right here. We're not 100% sure what's going on. Maybe it was just covered a little heavy and they're taking a little bit longer. That's what we're hoping for. So we're gonna give it another day or two. But now that they're up, they're about ready to come out of the high tunnel, because at night you wanna cover your seedlings with a plastic cover. It keeps the heat in and the moisture. But then in the morning you gotta get down here early and get that plastic layer off, which my dad already did. And then here's the gaillardia. You can see yesterday there was only like 1 or 2 coming up. Now they're all starting to poke their heads out. So it's really exciting every single day. There's more and more coming up, and hopefully within the next couple days, every single one of these flats will be coming up. So like I said, this was my list for yesterday. But it's not just like one variety of Vinca, one variety of Adratum. Well, actually, there's only one variety of Adratum. But there's multiple varieties of each one. Like begonias, I think we have 8 different varieties. Impatiens, we have like 10 different varieties. Dahlia, we have like 3. So it takes a while because there's multiple flats included with just one variety. So I got Vinca, Adratum, Dahlia, Celosia, Thyme. I did not do super hots. I did waves, begonias. Now I'm on to Impatiens. And then, like I said, there's 10 varieties of Impatiens, and then I'm also gonna do the super hot peppers and the sunflowers. All right, so I finished up the Impatiens, and now I'm gonna move on to sunflowers. We have 2 different varieties. We have Sunbuzz and Rio Carnival. Now I'm not gonna use the seeder for these just because we don't have a seed tray to fit the actual tray that I'm going to be planting them into. Sunflowers like a little more room to grow. They require a little more soil. So I'm going to be planting them in these just by hand. It's important that we write the dates and obviously the variety of whatever we're planting on each tag and then staple it just so that we know for later in the season if it takes longer to come up, if we had issues with it when we planted it. That way there's no questions and we can always look back and know what we did. Okay, so I'm ready to start planting. Okay, so as you can see, I have a seed in every single cell. Now what I'm going to do is go through and push them down into the soil. Now it's very important, especially with sunflowers, which I didn't know this until last year after I planted a couple times, that you don't want to go too deep. Like I thought, okay, if that cell is about, I don't know, 1.5 inches deep, I thought you want to push about halfway down. That's just what I thought. I didn't know. Found out that that's too deep and they actually won't grow. They won't even come out of the soil when they're that deep. So, and it takes a lot longer as well if they do happen to come out. So I found out that if you have a pencil with a decent eraser on it, you only want to go about as deep as the eraser, right to where that metal meets the eraser. That's about all the deeper you need to go, maybe a little bit past that, but that's it. So like this right here, boom, that's it. No deeper than that. And that was actually a little too deep. Like you should almost still see the seed after you push it down. Like if you're pushing it down so far, like kind of like that one, to where you can't see that seed in the dirt, it's too far. You could almost even just take your finger and just make a little impression in the dirt. And that's all it takes right there. And then what I'll do, which I'll show you in a little bit, is I'll go back over with a thin layer of dirt and then cover this whole thing, water it, and then it's good to go. So I'm gonna finish this tray off and then I'll show you what I do from there. So that's it right there. Now I'm just gonna go back over with a light dusting of dirt and cover the seeds. Just wanna watch when you're leveling this dirt out that you don't get too deep and actually pull your seeds back out of the soil. So I'll just very lightly take my hand back over it, just like that. A little too much soil right there. Perfect. So now, usually sunflowers take about 2 to 3 days, especially if you're doing it the way I'm doing it, where you don't go too deep. We used to grow 3 different varieties. It was Sunspot, Sunbuzz, and Rio Carnival. Rio Carnival is almost exclusively all we grew, but then we got into the Sunbuzz and Sunspot because Rio Carnival became hard to get. But after I started growing Sunbuzz, or actually I guess I should say we started growing Sunbuzz, I found out that I liked it better because the germination rate is a lot better. You can probably see right here, 88% for the Rio Carnival and 94% for the Sunbuzz. And not only that, but the plants, the sunflowers don't get quite as high. They fit better on our van, and people like them because they're not carrying around a 2-foot tall sunflower. They just like something nice, little, and petite. So we already ordered these seeds last year, the Rio Carnival and the Sunbuzz. They actually were really hard to get. We didn't even get them till after the greenhouse season was over. So now we're kind of stuck with them. And that's not a bad thing because, like I said, we grew them for years and we like them, but I found I like the Sunbuzz more. So that's kind of how things always go in the greenhouse, or just with farming in general. Things become unavailable, so you have to go with something else, and then sometimes it works out for the best because you find out you like that one better. So now I'm gonna water them. Watering can be a very touchy thing, especially in the greenhouse. It's very important. We don't really like to let anybody water besides just me, my mom, and dad, just because it's so important. You can kill something very, very easily, especially when it's smaller, by giving it too much water or not watering it enough. Greenhouses just in general are a very demanding thing. Like now that the greenhouses are started, probably we won't be able to leave the farm much at all because you have to be in here. Like now the sun just came out. I almost should have my sunglasses on. Someone needs to be in here right now because we had everything closed up because it's colder outside. It's only about 30 degrees. But now the sun came out, it's about 80 degrees in here, and we don't really want it getting much past 85. Like that's gonna get a little bit dangerous in the seed room here. So now I gotta get the fans on, get the doors opened up so everything can cool down, and it'll be a more comfortable temperature. We have a special nozzle here for doing seedlings. Especially when you're first doing them, you wanna hold it way back so you don't blow that dirt out. Get a good, even watering. Let that water just soak down, do all that dirt. Doesn't take much. You can really see the hollyhocks and the gaillardia coming up now. What is this? Lavender coming up. We're still not sure about this section of geraniums. We think it's because it's old seed. We don't really know. We're gonna give it a few days yet, but if not, we might have to reseed it. So pretty much every day now, this is what I'm gonna be doing. Working in the greenhouses, seeding, transplanting when that stuff's ready. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Hopefully you guys wanna learn, because I'm gonna try and teach you guys as well as myself along the way. We'll also be doing some other jobs like strawing the strawberries. You already seen we put straw on the garlic. And then the next thing we're gonna move into is the high tunnels, start tilling them, laying the fabric, and just all that good stuff. So with that being said, as always, thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. And always remember, it ain't much, but it's honest work.